6 months passed since Olivia accepted the position as ambassador. The Crystal Palace had become her home, a wing dedicated to the new Earth Elysium exchange program, where she worked with elven healers and scientists to develop new applications for the neural interface technology. Her days were filled with research, diplomatic meetings, and cultural exchange. Her nights were often spent with Lyra and Ember discussing the future of their worlds. The interface that had healed the Duchess had been refined and adapted for other uses. Elven healers now use simplified versions to treat victims of similar energy afflictions. Human scientists visiting from Earth collaborated on applications for treating neurological conditions back home. The bond between the two worlds grew stronger with each successful project. On this particular morning, Olivia stood on her balcony, watching one of the moons setting over the Crystal City. The air was cool and sweet, with alien flowers. Her quarters now reflected both her human heritage and her adopted elven home Earth books, shared shelves with elven scrolls. Human technology sat beside elven artifacts. A place between worlds, just as she now was, Ember appeared suddenly flying in lazy circles, before landing on the balcony rail. The small dragon chirped a greeting, his scales shifting to a friendly blue-gold. "Good morning to you too," she said, smiling. She had grown fond of the little dragon over the months, learning to read his moods through his color changes. "Is Lyra looking for me?" As if in answer to her question, a soft chime announced a visitor. Olivia turned to find the Duchess entering her chambers. Lyra no longer wore veils or heavy clothing. Her scars now fully transformed into beautiful patterns of light that flowed across her skin like living art. Her silver hair was bound in the traditional style of ruling elves. Her gown simple but elegant. "Ambassador Harrington," Lyra said with a formal bow, though her eyes showed warmth. "The council awaits your presentation." Olivia returned the bow. "The medical exchange proposal?" "Yes." Lyra nodded. "The combined findings of your research team. Are you prepared, as you'll ever be?" Olivia replied, gathering her materials. 3 months of work was contained in her presentation. Documentation of successful treatments using modified neural interfaces, statistics showing improved outcomes, case studies from both species. It represented the most comprehensive medical exchange in history. They walked together through the palace corridors, guards nodding respectfully as they passed. Ember flew ahead, occasionally doubling back as if scouting their path. Since Falren's attempt to seize power, security had been increased, though the immediate danger had passed. The former lord remained confined, awaiting final judgment from the High Council. The Grand Council chamber was filled with elven nobles, scientists and healers. Representatives from Earth sat in a special section including diplomats, doctors, and engineers who had joined the exchange program. They looked small and plain next to the tall, elegant elves, but their eyes showed the same wonder Olivia had felt when first arriving on Elysium. Prime Lyra took her place on the central throne, Ember perched beside her. The scars on her face glowed softly, a reminder of how much had changed. Olivia moved to the speaking platform in the center of the room. Her heart raced, but she had grown accustomed to addressing the council over the past months. "Honored council members, representatives of Earth," she began. "I present the findings of our joint medical research initiative." As she spoke, holographic images appeared above the platform, showing the adapted neural interfaces and their applications. Side-by-side comparisons of elven and human nervous systems. Dramatic before and after images of patients from both worlds who had benefited from the technology. The human approach to neural pathways combined with elven energy manipulation has created healing possibilities neither world could achieve alone, she continued. Our teams have successfully treated 27 elven patients suffering from energy disruptions, similar to those experienced by Duchess Talvarin, and 42 human patients with severe neurological damage have regained function using adapted versions of the same technology. The council members leaned forward, studying the evidence. Some nodded approval, others whispered among themselves. Olivia continued explaining the technical aspects of their work, the challenges they had overcome, the possibilities for future development. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Lord Tossel, head of the Science Council, stood. "Ambassador Harrington," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. The evidence you present is compelling. The benefits to both our worlds clear. I move that the Council approve. Expanded funding and support for the exchange program. Several other Council members voiced their agreement. Even those who had initially opposed human involvement now recognize the value of collaboration. The vote when it came was nearly unanimous. The exchange program would continue with increased resources and expanded scope. The council meeting concluded. Representatives from both worlds gathered in smaller groups discussing implications and possibilities. Olivia found herself surrounded by elven healers, eager to share ideas, and human doctors asking questions about elven biology. The barriers between species seemed to fade in the excitement of discovery. Lyra watched from her throne, a slight smile on her face. When the crowd thinned, she approached Olivia. "Walk with me," she said softly. They slipped away from the gathering, moving through a private garden. Few were permitted to enter. The plants here were ancient, some older than the palace itself, flowers that bloomed only once a century, trees that whispered in voices almost intelligible. Ember flew among the branches, occasionally bringing back small, glowing seeds that he dropped at Lyra's feet. "Your presentation was excellent," the Duchess said. "The Council is fully convinced of the benefits of our partnership." "Thank you," Olivia replied. "It helps that we have real results to show. The interfaces work better than I ever imagined." Lyra nodded. "That is why I wish to speak with you privately. There have been developments with my own interface abilities I did not anticipate." She held out her hand, palm up. The scars glowed brighter than usual, forming complex patterns above her skin. But unlike previous demonstrations, these patterns began to take solid form. Crystalline structures appeared hovering above her palm, tiny at first, then growing more complex. "Is that?" Olivia gasped, unable to finish her question. "Matter manipulation," Lyra confirmed. "The energy can be solidified, shaped, though only in small amounts and for short periods. The structures dissolve after a few minutes." Olivia stared, fascinated and concerned. This wasn't just energy control, but something far more advanced. The ability to create matter from energy, or at least to temporarily transform energy into solid form. "How long have you been able to do this?" she asked. "It began 2 weeks ago," Lyra said. "The first time was accidental. I was meditating, with Ember focusing on the energy flow, when I noticed small crystals forming in the air around us. With practice, I can now create simple structures." She demonstrated, forming a delicate replica of Ember. The tiny crystal dragon hovered for a moment, before dissolving back into light. "Have you told anyone else?" Olivia asked. "Only Morwen and Captain Alindra," Lyra replied. "And now you." "I am uncertain how the Council would respond. Some might see it as proof of what Falrin claimed that I have become, something other than Elf." Olivia considered the implications. The neural interface was functioning far beyond its design parameters. The connection between Lyra and Ember continuing to evolve in unexpected ways. Was there a limit to what they might eventually be able to do together? "Do you think it's dangerous?" she asked. Finally, Lyra looked thoughtful. "Not dangerous precisely, but powerful." "Yes, certainly powerful, and with power comes responsibility. I do not wish to frighten my people, but neither can I ignore these developing abilities." "What about the other patients?" Olivia asked. "Are they experiencing similar developments?" "None have reported such abilities," Lyra said. "But their connections are different. None have the bond with a stellar dragon. None have the particular energy signature of the Void Plague. I believe my situation remains unique." Ember chirped, flying down to land on Lyra's shoulder. The dragon nuzzled her cheek, his scales glowing with the same pattern as her scars, their connection visibly strengthening each day. "I believe we should document these developments," Olivia said carefully. "We don't need to present them to the Council yet, but we should understand what's happening. The interface may be evolving, adapting to your biology in ways I didn't anticipate." Lyra nodded. "I agree. And there is something else I wish to show you." She led Olivia deeper into the garden to a circular clearing surrounded by ancient trees. In the center stood a pedestal with a crystal sphere about the size of a human head. The sphere glowed faintly with energy similar to Lyra's scars. "This is a memory crystal," Lyra explained. "One of the oldest artifacts of my house. It contains the collected knowledge of House Talvarin, thousands of years of history. Experiences, secrets." Olivia had heard of such devices. Elven technology that could store memories, experiences, even personalities for generations. But they were incredibly rare. Typically accessible only to those of the same bloodline. "I attempted to access it yesterday," Lyra continued, "and discovered something unexpected. The crystal responded not just to my touch but to the energy from the interface. It showed me memories I had never seen before. Knowledge from ancestors long dead about the original dragon riders." She placed her hand on the sphere. The crystal glowed brighter, responding to her touch. Patterns of light similar to her scars spread through the sphere images. With the initial success of the neural interface, Olivia found herself with unexpected status in the elven court. The once dismissive nobles now regarded her with curious respect. Some even sought her opinion on matters unrelated to her work with the Duchess. Yet the political atmosphere remained tense. Lord Falrin and his supporters had not given up their ambition so easily. Olivia spent most of her time refining the interface. The prototype worked, but needed adjustments to ensure long-term stability. She also documented everything, creating detailed records of her work for both elven healers and her own research back on Earth. One morning, as she worked in her laboratory, a palace guard appeared at her door. "Engineer Harrington, you are summoned to the Duchess' private chambers immediately." The guard looked concerned. "It is urgent." Olivia grabbed her diagnostic equipment and followed, wondering what could be wrong. The interface had been functioning perfectly during her last check. Lyra had even begun experimenting with her new abilities, controlling the energy flow between herself and Ember, creating small manifestations of light and power. When they reached Lyra's chambers, Olivia found the Duchess sitting calmly in a chair, Ember on her shoulder. No signs of distress or malfunction were visible. The guards exchanged a series of hand signals, then left, closing the doors and leaving Olivia alone with Lyra. "Is everything all right, Your Grace?" Olivia asked, confused by the urgency of the summons. Lyra rose gracefully, her scars glowing with their new controlled light. "I'm sorry for the dramatic summons," she said, "but I needed to speak with you privately, without being overheard." She gestured for Olivia to follow, leading her to a section of wall that slid open, revealing a hidden passage. The narrow corridor led to a small room with no windows. The walls seemed to shimmer with energy. "My family's private council chamber," Lyra explained. "No one can listen here. Even the most advanced elven technology cannot penetrate these walls." Olivia looked around, impressed by the ancient security measures. Why all the secrecy? Lyra sat at a small table, indicating Olivia should join her. "Someone tried to sabotage your work last night." What? Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. "How Ember sensed an intruder in your laboratory," Lyra said. The dragon flew from his perch to land on the table, his scales darkening as if remembering a threat. "He alerted me through our enhanced bond. When guards investigated, they found evidence someone had accessed your equipment." "But why?" Olivia asked. "The interface works." "Your condition is stable." Lyra smiled, though without humor. "Not everyone is pleased by my recovery or by the form it has taken. The interface doesn't just manage my pain, it gives me abilities. Abilities no elf has had since the ancient dragon riders. Some find this threatening, especially if they had hoped to benefit from your continued weakness." Olivia realized. "Exactly." Lyra nodded. "While I was hiding, behind veils managing pain, there were limits to my power, to my reach." Now the Duchess held up her hand, the scars glowing brighter, forming patterns in the air above her palm. "Now I am something new. Something that challenges the old power structures." Olivia watched the display of energy control, fascinated despite the concerning news. "You've been practicing." "Every day," Lyra admitted. "The connection with Ember grows stronger. We can share senses now. I can see through his eyes, feel what he feels, and the energy. I can direct it, shape it." She demonstrated, creating a small sphere of light that floated above the table. Ember chirped, his scales glowing in matching patterns. "That's incredible," Olivia said. I didn't design the interface for that. The energy manipulation was supposed to be internal only. That is why I wanted to speak with you privately. Lyra said, the interface has exceeded your design in unexpected ways. The question is why? Olivia thought about it. The only explanation is that the connection between you and Ember was already stronger than we realized. The interface just removed the barriers. Perhaps Lyra said, or perhaps something about combining elven biology with human technology created something new. Something neither of our peoples fully understands either way, Olivia replied. Someone sees it as a threat, and that means you're in danger. We are both in danger. Lyra corrected. 2 attempts have been made to enter your quarters as well. Olivia felt another chill. Someone tried to break into my rooms. Why didn't anyone tell me? I didn't want to alarm you. The guards have been discreetly watching over you. That explains the increased security presence. Olivia had noticed more guards in her section of the palace, but had assumed it was standard procedure. We need to accelerate our work, Lyra said. I believe Lord Falren is behind these attempts. The interface works, but it is still new, untested. He will try to claim it is unstable, dangerous. He needs only one incident, one public failure to convince. The council I can run more diagnostics. Olivia offered check for vulnerabilities. That would be wise. Lyra agreed. But there is something else I need from you. Anything. Olivia replied sincerely. She had grown fond of the Duchess during their time together, admiring her strength and determination. I need you to teach me everything about the interface, Lyra said. How it works, how to maintain it, how to repair it if necessary. I cannot remain dependent on you for its function. Olivia nodded. That makes sense. It would take time, but she could create documentation training materials. And Lyra continued, I need you to consider staying longer than planned. Staying. Olivia had been thinking about returning to Earth soon. Her work was essentially complete. The interface was functioning, her data collected. The idea of staying longer in this alien world was both thrilling and intimidating. I believe you are still in danger, Lyra explained. Until I secure my position, until I understand who opposes me and why. I would feel better knowing you were safe here where my guards can protect you. And you need me to keep working on the interface, Olivia added. Understanding the practical side as well? Lyra smiled. You see clearly, Engineer Harrington. Yes, I need your continued expertise, but I also genuinely wish to ensure your safety. You have given me back my life. My concern for yours is real. Olivia considered the request. Her life on Earth seemed distant now. Her small lab, her apartment, her routine all felt like memories from someone else's life. Here she was doing work that mattered, making discoveries that could change lives. The danger was real, but so was the opportunity. I will stay, she decided. At least until we're certain the interface is stable and until the political situation is more secure. Thank you, Lyra said, relief evident in her voice. Now we must be careful. Trust few Morwen, of course, and Captain Alindra of my personal guard. But beyond them, we should assume everyone has divided loyalties, Olivia nodded, understanding the precarious position they were in. Even the small dragon seemed to understand his posture, alert. His eyes scanning the room as if looking for threats. They spent the next few hours discussing security measures and plans for Olivia's continued work. When they finally emerged from the secret chamber, Olivia returned to her laboratory with a new awareness of the political currents swirling around her. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Olivia ran extensive diagnostics on the interface, finding small improvements to implement. She documented everything in meticulous detail, creating materials to teach Lyra and trusted healers about the system. She also installed security measures on her equipment, ensuring no one could tamper with her work. One evening, as she was preparing to meet with Lyra, an unfamiliar elf appeared at her door. He wore the uniform of a palace messenger. Engineer Harrington, he said, bowing slightly. The Duchess requests your presence in the South Garden immediately. Olivia frowned. That was unusual. Lyra typically summoned her to her chambers or the laboratory, and she hadn't mentioned a meeting in the garden. Did she say why? Olivia asked. Urgent matters regarding the interface, the messenger replied she said to bring your diagnostic equipment, still suspicious. Olivia gathered her tools but sent a quick message to Morwen asking about the summons. Then she followed the messenger through corridors she'd never seen before. These aren't the usual paths to the garden, she noted. A more direct route, the messenger explained, avoiding the busier sections of the palace. They turned down another empty corridor, and Olivia felt her suspicion grow. This wasn't right. Where were the guards that usually patrolled the palace? I think we've gone far enough, she said, stopping. We're not heading toward any garden, are we? The messenger turned, his expression hardening. I was told you were clever human. Before Olivia could react, two more elves stepped from an alcove. One held what looked like a weapon. The other reached for her. Run, a voice said directly into her mind. A voice that sounded strangely like Ember. Olivia didn't question it. She turned and sprinted back the way they'd come, hearing shouts behind her. She knew she couldn't outrun elves, their natural speed far exceeded humans. But she might reach a more populated area, find guards. A bright flash of light appeared ahead of her, revealing Lyra, her scars glowing intensely. Ember circling above her, the Duchess held out her hand, energy flowing from her fingertips to me. Olivia, she called. Olivia ran toward her, but one of the pursuers fired his weapon. A bolt of energy struck the wall beside her, showering her with crystal fragments. Lyra made a sharp gesture and a barrier of light formed between Olivia and her attackers. Get behind me, she ordered. When Olivia reached her, Lyra grabbed her arm and pulled her into an alcove. Ember flew down, landing on Lyra's shoulder, his eyes glowing with the same energy as the Duchess's scars. Hold tight, Lyra said, and do not let go no matter what you see or feel. Before Olivia could ask what she meant, the world seemed to dissolve. Days turned into weeks as Olivia worked on a solution for the Duchess. She settled into a routine in the Crystal Palace, rising early to work in the laboratory space provided for her, testing materials, running simulations, and building prototypes. In the afternoons, she would meet with Lyra to run tests and discuss progress. In the evenings, she studied elven medical texts, trying to understand their approach to healing. The palace staff had been cold at first, but gradually warmed to her presence. Some even sought her out, curious about Earth and humans. Their questions sometimes made Olivia laugh. How many hearts do humans have? Is it true you only live 80 years? Do all humans have hair the color of fire? Her biggest challenge was not the technical aspects of creating a solution, but understanding the connection between Lyra and Ember. The dragon was always present during their meetings, watching with intelligent eyes, sometimes making soft sounds that seemed like comments on their conversation. One afternoon, as Olivia scanned the Duchess's scars, she noticed something interesting. The energy patterns shifted when Ember was closer to Lyra, almost as if the dragon was drawing some of the energy away. Ember helps you manage the pain, doesn't he? Olivia said, not looking up from her scanner. Has not just a pet, he's actually absorbing some of the energy. Lyra nodded, her silver eyes showing surprise at Olivia's insight. Yes, though our healers never understood how or why he has been with me since before the plague. When my family died, he was the only one who could come near me. The scars seemed to react to everyone else, making the pain worse. But Ember, he made it bearable. Olivia ran another scan, this time focusing on the dragon. Ember sat patiently, allowing the human to examine him. His scales shifted colors as the scanner passed over them. Have you noticed his scales match your scars? Olivia asked. The same patterns, the same colors. I noticed, but thought it was merely sympathetic, Lyra said. Like how some earth pets grow to resemble their owners. It's more than that, Olivia replied. I think you're linked somehow. The energy flows between you. He takes some, absorbs it, or processes it. Somehow. Ember made a trilling sound as if confirming her theory. This changes my approach. Olivia said, excitement in her voice. I was trying to create something that would redirect the energy. But what if instead we enhance what already works? The connection between you and Ember. Can you do that, Lyra? Asked. I think so, Olivia replied. But I'd need to understand more about stellar dragons, their biology, how they process energy. Morwen can arrange access to our libraries, Lyra said. Most information about dragons is restricted. The bond between dragon and elf is sacred. But as Duchess, I can grant you permission. That evening, Olivia found herself in a section of the palace library she'd never seen before. Ancient scrolls and crystal storage devices containing information about the rare dragons of Elysium Prime. She learned that in ancient times elven nobles had bonded with full-sized dragons, riding them into battle and sharing thoughts. But the practice had faded as the dragons became rarer. Smaller dragons like Ember were descended from those great beasts, still intelligent, still capable of bonding, but no longer large enough to carry riders. They were companions, not mounts. Their ability to absorb and process magical energy made them valuable, especially to those who worked with dangerous forces. The most interesting discovery was that the bond between elf and dragon was not just emotional, but physical. The dragons literally connected to their companions, nervous systems, sharing sensations, and sometimes abilities. The most powerful pairs could even share sight or hearing, experiencing the world through each other's senses. This explains so much, Olivia whispered to herself as she read. Ember isn't just absorbing energy, he's processing it for her, like a secondary nervous system. With this new understanding, Olivia revised her designs. The solution wasn't to block the energy or even redirect it, but to enhance the natural bond between Lyra and Ember, creating a balanced system where the energy could flow freely between them. She worked late into the night creating a prototype, a delicate lattice of nanites that would integrate with Lyra's nervous system and enhance the connection with Ember. When she finally fell asleep, her dreams were filled with glowing energy, patterns and flying dragons. The next morning, Olivia was preparing to show her new design to the Duchess when a commotion in the hallway caught her attention. Raised voices, the sound of running feet. She opened her door to see palace guards rushing. "Past what's happening?" she called to one. "The Duchess Lord Falren has called an emergency council meeting challenging her fitness to rule," the guard replied without stopping. Olivia hurried after them, following the sounds of argument to a large chamber she'd never entered before. The council room was circular, with seats arranged in tiers around a central floor. The Duchess sat on a raised chair, Ember perched beside her. Lord Falren stood before her, gesturing dramatically as he spoke. Other elven nobles watched from their seats, some looking concerned, others smug. "The human still lives in the palace," Falren was saying, his voice carrying easily in the room. "The Duchess still seeks primitive solutions to her condition. This is proof she is unfit to rule House Tal Varen. The council must appoint a regent until she either recovers or—" He stopped abruptly, noticing Olivia in the doorway. "The human dares to enter the council chamber," he said, pointing at her. "This is forbidden." All eyes turned to Olivia. She stood straight, refusing to be intimidated. "I was summoned by the Duchess," she lied smoothly. "I have news of my progress." Lyra caught on immediately, nodding regally. "Engineer Harrington, please approach and share your findings with the council." Olivia walked forward, aware of the hostile stares from some council members and the curious looks from others. She bowed to Lyra, then turned to face the assembled nobles, members of the council. "She began my work with the Duchess has shown promising results. The energy from the void plague scars can be redirected through the natural bond she shares with Ember, the stellar dragon." There were murmurs at this, some sounding shocked that she knew about the sacred bonds. Lord Falren scoffed loudly. "You would have us believe a human understands our sacred traditions better than our own healers," he said. "Not better," Olivia replied, "but differently. My approach does not attempt to remove or block the scars as your healers have tried. Instead, it works with the existing connection between the Duchess and Ember, enhancing it, allowing the energy to flow naturally between them." An older elf stood from his seat near the top of the chamber. "You speak of the old ways, child. The dragon bond hasn't been practiced in centuries because dragons of sufficient size no longer exist," Olivia agreed. "But the principle remains valid. The bond between Duchess Tal Varen and Ember is unusually strong. I believe this is why she survived the plague when others did not. Ember has been processing the harmful energy, keeping her alive." Lord Falren made a dismissive gesture. "This is speculation, not science. The human has no evidence. I have scans." Olivia said, pulling out her device and projecting images into the air above the council floor, energy patterns moving between Lyra and Ember. The correlation is clear. The council members leaned forward, studying the projections. Some looked thoughtful, others skeptical. "And what do you propose to do with this information?" One asked. "Have designed a neural interface that will enhance their natural connection." Olivia explained. "It won't remove the scars, but it will transform how the energy affects the Duchess. Instead of causing pain, it could become a source of strength." Falrin laughed loudly. "Strength. The human thinks to turn our Duchess into some kind of energy wielder like characters from their primitive entertainment. This is absurd." The Duchess stood suddenly, silencing the room with the motion. Everyone watched as she slowly removed her outer veil, revealing the glowing scars on her face. For many, this was the first time seeing the extent of her condition. There were gasps and murmurs. "Lord Falrin speaks of my fitness to rule," she said, her voice steady, despite the visible pain the exposure caused him. Yet in 5 years, he has offered no solutions, only criticism. "Engineer Harrington has done more in weeks than our healers have in years. I have reviewed her design and believe it has merit. The human stays. The treatment continues." The council chamber erupted in arguments, some supporting the Duchess, others backing Falrin. Olivia stood still in the center, watching the political drama unfold. She caught Lyra's eye and saw determination there. The Duchess would not be swayed by Falrin's attempt to seize power. Eventually, the head of the council called for order. "This matter will be decided by trial," he announced. "If the human's treatment succeeds, the Duchess will continue to rule. If it fails, a regent will be appointed. Does the council agree?" There were nods and murmurs of assent. The Duchess inclined her head, accepting the terms. When the council dispersed, Olivia followed Lyra back to her private chambers. The Duchess seemed tired, the exposure of her scars having taken a toll. "I'm sorry," Olivia said. "That was political, not medical. They shouldn't use your health as a weapon." Lyra sank into a chair, Ember immediately curling in her lap to offer comfort. "Politics is always a weapon here," she replied. "House Malarian has wanted control of the shipping routes for generations. Falrin sees my condition as his opportunity." Olivia frowned. "They can't just take your position. Because you're ill." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes tired. "In our culture, leaders must be whole to rule with wisdom. One must be free of suffering. That is the traditional belief. My scars challenge that tradition. Some see it as a sign the ancestors disapprove of my rule." "That seems cruel," Olivia said. Olivia Harrington never expected to visit an alien world. She spent her days in her small lab in Seattle, working on neural interfaces to help wounded veterans regain movement and feeling. Her work was important, but quiet, far from the attention of most people, let alone beings from other planets. The day everything changed started normally. She arrived at her lab, coffee in hand, ready to test her newest prototype, a delicate web of nanites that could bridge damaged nerve pathways. The morning sun streamed through her windows as she reviewed her notes from the previous day. The doorbell rang, unusual for so early. Olivia checked the security camera and froze. A tall, elegant figure stood outside, unlike any human. Its silver hair fell to its waist and its features were too perfect, too symmetrical. The pointed ears confirmed what she was seeing: an alien. An elf, as the media had dubbed the first extraterrestrial species to contact Earth. The first contact had happened only 8 months ago. The elves called themselves the Confederation and had arrived in ships that seemed to defy physics. Earth governments were still negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Most humans had never seen an elf in person. Olivia opened the door, heart racing. "Greetings," the alien said in perfect English. "My name is Morwen, advisor to Duchess Lyra Talvarin of House Talvarin, ruler of the 3rd quadrant of the Elven Confederation. May I enter?" Stunned, Olivia stepped aside, watching as the alien glided into her lab, looking around with interest but no surprise. The alien seemed female, though Olivia knew enough not to make assumptions about other species. "I apologize for arriving without warning," Morwen said. "But my mission requires discretion." What mission? Olivia asked, finding her voice at last. Why would an alien come to her lab of all places? The alien turned to face her. I represent Duchess Talvarin, who rules one of the largest shipping empires in our civilization. She suffers from a condition our healers cannot treat. I have been searching for alternatives, and your work with neural interfaces caught my attention. Livia blinked. My work. But I work with human nervous systems. I don't know anything about elven biology. Morwen pulled out a small device that projected a hologram into the air. It showed complex energy patterns flowing through what Olivia assumed was an elven body. The Duchess suffers from scars left by a plague. Morwen explained. These scars produce energy that causes great pain. Our healers have tried for years to remove them without success. But when I researched human medicine, I found your approach to neural damage interesting. You don't try to regrow damaged nerves. You create bridges around them. Olivia stared at the hologram, her mind already racing with possibilities. Yes, that's the basic principle. We work with what remains, rather than trying to restore what was lost. Exactly, Morwen said. And that is why I am here. The Duchess would like to hire you to come to Elysium Prime and attempt to create a solution for her condition. Elysium Prime. The elven homeworld. Olivia felt lightheaded. No human had been there as far as she knew. The diplomatic meetings all happened on neutral space stations. You want me to go to another planet, she said slowly. Yes, Morwen replied. If you agree, you would be compensated generously. The Duchess controls vast resources that could fund your research for many lifetimes. Olivia walked to her desk, needing to sit down. This was too much too sudden. But as she looked at the hologram still floating in the air, she could see patterns that resembled neural disruption in human patients. The energy flows were different, but the principles might be similar. I would need to bring equipment, Olivia said, not quite believing she was considering this diagnostic tool's prototypes. Everything can be arranged, Morwen said. The Duchess has prepared for your visit. Assuming you agree, you would have access to our medical technology as well. How long would I be gone? Perhaps 1 Earth month, Morwen replied. 2 at most, depending on your progress. Olivia thought about her small lab, her ongoing projects, her apartment plants that would die without care. She had no family to notify, no partner to miss her. Just her work. And here was an opportunity to take that work to literal new worlds. What about language? Olivia asked. How would I communicate with others? You would be provided with a translation device, Morwen said. Though many at court speak your language, we have studied Earth extensively. Olivia stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Yesterday, her biggest concern had been fixing a calibration issue in her latest prototype. Now she was considering traveling to another solar system. When would we leave, she asked. If you agree, we could depart tomorrow, Morwen said. A ship waits in orbit. So soon, Olivia turned back to the alien. Do I have time to think about it? The alien looked slightly uncomfortable. The Duchess's condition worsens each day. Time is valuable. Olivia looked around her lab at the years of research, the prototypes, the failed attempts and successes. She thought about what she could learn from alien technology, how it might advance her work by decades. I need to pack some things, she said, making her decision, and notify my building manager about my absence. Morwen smiled for the first time, showing perfect white teeth with slightly longer canines than a human. Excellent. I will make arrangements. A transport will collect you tomorrow at midday. After the alien left, Olivia sat in stunned silence for several minutes, before bursting into slightly hysterical laughter. She was going to space, to another planet, to help an alien duchess with mysterious scars. It was like something from the science fiction novels she read as a child. The next 24 hours passed in a blur. Olivia packed equipment, notebooks, and personal items. She wrote emails with vague explanations about a research opportunity abroad. She watered her plants and asked her neighbor to check on them. She barely slept, excitement and anxiety, keeping her mind racing. The transport that arrived was not the flying saucer of old movies, but a sleek shuttle that landed smoothly on the roof of her building. Morwen greeted her and helped load her equipment. The inside of the shuttle was larger than it appeared, with comfortable seats and views of Earth as they ascended. When they reached orbit, Olivia gasped. The elven ship was enormous, a graceful curved structure that seemed to be made of crystal and metal. It gleamed in the sunlight, looking more like art than transportation. "Welcome to the Starlight Envoy," Morwen said as they docked. "The ship will take us to Elysium Prime. The journey will take approximately 7 Earth days." 7 days, Olivia repeated. That seemed impossible given the distances involved, but she had heard the elves had technology that could bend space in ways human science was only beginning to theorize about. The interior of the ship was just as beautiful as the exterior: high ceilings, flowing architecture, living plants growing along walls. The elven crew regarded her with curious glances but kept their distance. Morwen spoke to her directly, showing her to quarters that had been prepared with human needs in mind. "Your meals will be suitable for human consumption," Morwen explained. "We have studied your dietary requirements. You will not be required to eat our food." "Thank you," Olivia said, wondering what elven food was like. "Do I have access to the ship, or should I stay in my quarters?" "You may explore certain areas," Morwen replied. "There will be a guide available should you wish to see more of the vessel. The Duchess has ordered that you be treated as an honored guest." The 7-day journey gave Olivia time to study the information Morwen provided about the Duchess' condition. The scars were unlike anything in human medicine, energy readings that shouldn't be possible in living tissue, patterns that seemed almost mathematical in their spread. The more she studied, the more fascinated she became. She also learned about elven culture from materials in her quarters. Their long lives spanning centuries. Their rigid social hierarchies. Their advanced technology combined with traditions thousands of years old. She learned about the Duchess herself, ruler of a shipping empire that controlled trade routes across multiple star systems, the last of her bloodline, after a plague killed her family. By the time they approached Elysium Prime, Olivia had formed theories about the Duchess's condition and possible treatments. She had also grown accustomed to the graceful movements of the elven crew, the strange food that tasted better than she expected, and the constant subtle hum of the ship's engines. When Morwen came to tell her they were arriving, Olivia was ready, standing at the viewport, eager for her first glimpse of an alien world. Elysium Prime appeared, first as a blue-green jewel in space, not unlike Earth but with 3 small moons in orbit. As they drew closer, she could see vast oceans, continents covered in forests, and the glittering spots of cities. The ship descended through clouds into the atmosphere, giving Olivia views of mountains taller than any on Earth, forests with purple and silver trees, and finally a city that took her breath away. Crystal spires rose thousands of feet into the air, connected by delicate bridges that seemed too fragile to support weight, buildings shaped like flowers and leaves. Gardens growing vertically up the sides of towers, and everywhere movement, people, vehicles, flying creatures. "The central palace is where the Duchess resides," Morwen explained, pointing to the tallest structure, a tower that caught the light and broke it into rainbows. "We will go there directly." Their shuttle landed at a private port where a small group of elves waited. All wore elaborate clothing in jewel tones with symbols. Olivia didn't recognize. They bowed to Morwen, but looked at Olivia with expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. The human engineer, Morwen announced, "This is Olivia Harrington of Earth. She comes at the..." In the tallest tower of the Crystal City, Lyra Talvarin stood alone, looking out at the 3 moons of Elysium Prime. The wind moved her many veils, making them dance around her slim form. She watched the ships coming and going from the spaceport, each one carrying goods that belonged to her family empire, each one making her richer even as she stood trapped in her lonely tower. Ember, her small dragon pet, made a soft noise and rubbed against her arm. The creature was no bigger than a house cat with scales that changed color based on mood. Right now they glowed a soft blue, showing that the dragon felt her sadness. "I know, little one," Lyra whispered, her voice like music, even when sad. "I should be happy with all this wealth and power, But happiness was hard to find when pain was her constant companion. The scars hidden beneath her many layers of clothing burned like fire on her skin, day and night. They spread across her body in strange patterns, left by the void plague that had killed her entire family 5 years ago. Only Lyra had lived, though sometimes she wondered if living with such pain was really living at all. She turned away from the window and walked to her mirror, removing the outer layer of veils. Her face was still, beautiful with the pointed ears and silver eyes of her kind. But at the edges of her face, the scars began small lines of dark energy that glowed purple against her pale skin. They spread down her neck and across her chest, back and arms. Like dark, lightning frozen on her body, Ember made a sad sound and flew up to land on her shoulder. The small dragon always seemed to know when the pain got worse. The best doctors in the Elven Confederation had tried to heal her. Some had even promised cures, taking large amounts of money only to fail. Her family magic, strong for thousands of years, seemed useless against whatever poison had been in the plague. Lyra knew what people said about her. The scarred Duchess, the broken Heiress, the veiled ruler. Some even called her the dying light of House Talvarin, secretly hoping she would pass away so they could fight over her empire. A soft bell rang, announcing a visitor. Quickly, Lyra put her veils back in place, making sure every inch of scarred skin was covered. The special fabric kept the worst of the pain at bay, though nothing stopped it completely. "Come in," she called, adjusting her posture to look strong and unbothered. Morwen, her most trusted advisor, entered the room, bowing low. Her silver hair was braided in the style of royal servants, and her blue uniform was perfect as always. "My Duchess, I have returned from Earth with news." Lyra felt a small spark of hope, though she tried to hide it. The human planet was her last chance after all. Elven medicine had failed her. She had sent Morwen to the newly discovered world to find help. Humans were considered primitive by most elves, but Lyra had heard stories of their strange technology and different way of thinking. Perhaps they could see something her own people had missed. "What did you find?" she asked. Keeping her voice steady, Morwen smiled slightly. "I found someone. My Duchess. A human engineer who works with neural technology. She has created devices that heal damaged nerves in human warriors returning from battle. The images I saw reminded me of your condition. Can this human help me?" Lyra asked, trying not to sound desperate. The humans call her Olivia Harrington. She believes she might be able to help, but would need to examine you in person. Lyra turned back to the window, watching the ships again. A human coming here to the heart of Elven civilization. It would cause talk. The nobles already thought her weak for seeking cures. Some would see bringing a human to the palace as proof she was unfit to rule. But what choice did she have? The pain was getting worse each day. The doctors said the energy from the scars was spreading deeper into her body. Soon it might reach her heart. "Very well," she said. "Make arrangements. Bring this human here. But Morwen, do it quietly. I do not wish to hear the council's opinions on this matter." Morwen bowed again. "Yes, my Duchess, I will arrange everything. The human can be here within 7 days." When Morwen left, Lyra sank into her chair. Exhaustion, taking over, Ember curled in her lap, making soft sounds of comfort. 7 days, she thought, 7 days until this human engineer either gave her new hope or became just another failed attempt to find healing. That night, as Lyra tried to sleep, despite the burning pain of her scars, she dreamed of walking in the gardens without veils, of feeling the sun on her face, without agony, of leading her people without hiding. She dreamed of freedom from pain, but morning brought reality back. The scars seemed angry today, glowing brighter than usual. She dressed carefully, layer after layer of special fabric between her and the world, protection for her and for anyone who might see what she had become. Her morning meetings were held via hologram, so no one would see her in person. This had become normal over the past years. Her advisors giving reports about the shipping empire, trade deals with other systems, profits and losses. She listened and made decisions, though the pain made it hard to focus after the meetings. She called for Morwen. "Tell me about this human," she said. What is she like? Morwen looked thoughtful. Olivia Harrington is considered brilliant among her kind. She works alone, mostly creating devices that help injured humans regain lost abilities. She seemed most interested when I described your condition, especially the energy patterns of the scars. Does she understand what she would be dealing with? Lyra asked. An elven noble. A different species? She seems adaptable. Morwen replied. And hungry for knowledge. Her eyes lit up at the chance to study something new that was both good and concerning. Lyra did not want to be just a research project for a curious human, but perhaps that curiosity would lead to answers where elven caution had failed. For the next 7 days, Lyra prepared. A suite of rooms was made ready for the human with adjustments for their different needs. Security was increased, though kept discreet. Lyra did not want her guest to feel like a prisoner. She also studied everything available about humans. Their short lives, their quick technological progress, their strange mix of violence and compassion. Most interesting was their apparent ability to think in ways elves did not, to make connections between things that seemed unrelated. Such different thinking might be exactly what she needed. On the 7th day, Morwen came to her chambers, excitement visible on her usually calm face. The human has arrived, my Duchess. Her ship just docked at the private port. Lyra felt her heart beat faster. Is everything ready? Yes, all as you ordered. The human brings equipment, but not much. Our scanners detected. No weapons. Lyra nodded. Good. Bring her to the receiving room in 1 hour. I will meet her there. As Morwen left, Lyra went to her special chamber where the light was filtered to ease her pain. Ember flew around the room, sensing her nervous energy. What if this is just another disappointment, she whispered to the dragon. What if humans are not as clever as they seem? Ember landed on her shoulder, making a sound that somehow conveyed confidence. The little dragon had been with her through every failed treatment, every moment of hope that turned to despair. Yet still the creature seemed to believe things could get better. Lyra straightened her shoulders and adjusted her veils one final time. If a tiny dragon could keep faith, perhaps she could too. 1 hour later, she sat on her throne in the receiving room. The lights were dim, the air cool. Everything designed to keep her, pain at minimum levels. Ember sat beside her, his scales now a royal purple matching the room decor. The doors opened and Morwen entered. First, bowing low. My Duchess, I present Olivia Harrington of Earth. The human who walked in was shorter than any elf, with hair the color of copper fire and skin dotted with tiny marks. Freckles, Lyra remembered they were called. She wore simple clothes, nothing like the elaborate robes of elven nobles, and carried a case that probably held her equipment, but it was. The human eyes that caught Lyra's attention. They were green like the forests of Elysium Prime, and they looked at everything with open curiosity. Most importantly, when they looked at Lyra, they showed no pity, no fear, just interest. The human bowed, slightly different from the elven style, but respectful. Duchess Talvarin, she said, her voice deeper than an elven female's. Thank you for inviting me to your world. Its beauty is beyond what I imagined. Lyra nodded slowly, pleased by the greeting. Most humans she had heard about were loud and improper. This one seemed to have studied their customs. Welcome to Elysium Prime. She replied, I hope your journey was comfortable. It was fascinating, Olivia answered. The technology of your ships is remarkable. Diplomatic answer. Lyra thought human ships were known to be crude compared to elven vessels. Ember chose that moment to fly from the throne to inspect the visitor. The small dragon circled Olivia's head before landing on a nearby table to stare at her. The human smiled at the dragon without showing fear. Many elves were nervous around Ember despite his small size. Is this your dragon? She asked. I was told you might have one. They are thought to be myths on Earth. This is Ember, Lyra said, feeling oddly proud. He has been with me since before my illness. Olivia nodded, seeming to understand something in that statement. Morwen tells me you suffer from scars that cause pain and that our traditional healers have been unable to help. Is that correct? Lyra appreciated the direct approach. Yes, the void plague that killed my family left me marked. The mark spread energy through my body, causing constant pain. May I ask what treatments have been tried? Olivia asked, setting her case down. For the next hour, Lyra described the many failed attempts to heal her. The special fabrics that blocked the worst effects. The medicines that dulled the pain but also dulled her mind. The magical treatments that